Good morning and welcome. Hello, thanks for joining me. My name is James Whitcomb. I'm the candidate coach, and today we're going to be having our first workshop or our first webinar for 2025. So I'm coming to you live. It is the 5th of February. It is 10 a.m. in Victoria, and it's great to be streaming with you. You've got the opportunity right throughout today to pop some questions in. So wherever you're watching this, whether you're on our socials, whether you're on one of our partner platforms, you can pop questions in and I'll take them, I'll read them out and I'll answer them for you. So while we do that though, we're going to be going through, some job hunting tips for 2025. So I booked this workshop in before the end of last year, and I thought I'd wait and see what were the main questions that I got asked, in the first couple of weeks of the year. And then that's what we focus this session on. And so most of the questions that I've been asked are still around resume, but a lot of questions around how to best use AI. Should I use AI? Should I use AI for my cover letter? Are AI resumes better than what I can do myself? Are AI resumes being screened out by recruiters? So we're going to spend a fair bit of time today talking about how to create a great resume. And then I'm also going to show you, a real life example of how you should use AI to help, improve your resume and improve your cover letter. Not write it from scratch, but there are certainly some really great ways that you can improve your cover letter through using AI at the moment. All right, so I'm going to be sharing my screen with you quite a bit today. I am dealing also with a brand new layout on my streaming platform here, which is called Restream. So do bear with me. You will be able to watch this again live. So everything that we stream goes straight onto our YouTube channel. So if you can't attend for all of today, or you want to come back and watch it again, or you want to share this workshop with your friends, you can jump on our YouTube channel. If you don't know where that is, then simply just jump on YouTube and search for The Candidate Coach. All right, so today we're really focusing on creating a great resume and some job hunting tips in 2025. So how can we go about finding a job this year? What is different in 2025? What do we need to know? How can we be putting our best foot forward, particularly with regards to resumes and cover letters, because that's what we've been told pretty clearly is really important for you. Throughout today, you'll see me glancing this way a little bit because that's my presentation screen, and that's where I'm looking at my notes and all the things I want to share with you. So a little bit about me to begin with. Obviously, that's me. I'm the founder of The Candidate Coach, which has been going for about 5 years now. We started The Candidate Coach because we really wanted to, through smart recruitment, have a platform that really helps us to best advise job seekers on how they can improve all aspects of job searching. So on The Candidate Coach, it's not just about what we'll talk about today, which is primarily resumes. It's personal branding, LinkedIn. We've got content there to support your mental health. We've got a whole range of things, practice tests that you can take, templates that you can download. With specific content for First Nations job seekers. We've got a career change course as well. So make sure that you jump on there if you're looking for work this year or into the future, because it's a great resource for you. Throughout my time, I've conducted over 3,000 interviews, placed over 1,000 people into work. I couldn't tell you how many resumes I've read. I would say it's probably close, if not more than 100,000. And I've spent a fair bit of time over the last 5 years helping people improve their resumes. Because while it sounds complicated for many people, it's actually not that hard. And there's a few small basics that you need to get right, which I'll share with you today. Okay, so I was at a conference late last year, a recruitment conference, and we heard this stat, and it's pretty amazing, isn't it? In 2025, it's believed that 50% of resumes are going to be AI generated. So, that in some ways that's kind of exciting, and I'm starting to use certainly AI in more of my work, and find ways that I can use AI to help with job seeker coaching, for example. Because if you can build something that's really sophisticated and provides a quality service and reaches more people, then there's nothing wrong with using AI. And it's a bit the same with your resume. There's nothing wrong with using AI to improve your resume. More and more people are experimenting with it. but there are certainly some do's and don'ts. So what we're going to do today, we're going to talk firstly about how you create a really good resume. And then in the second half, I'm going to show you how you can use, we'll probably look at Gemini today, but it doesn't matter whether it's ChatGPT or whatnot, to look for ways to particularly to customize your resume. So that's really good for you. All right, so I've got a question, and feel free to pop this answer in wherever you're watching on the chat function. How long do you think someone spends reading a resume? Whoops, I've already given away the answer, so don't worry about popping it in. But it's 7 seconds. It's not very long, is it? It's not very long at all. 7 seconds. I mean, you might have spent hours, you might have spent days working on your resume. For a lot of people, the resume is a document that you probably continually update over the years each time you're looking for work. So if this is the first time you're looking for work for 3 years, you probably dusting off your 2022 resume and you're adding some more information to it, and you're hopefully customizing it. But when it gets to the other end and it's submitted, what eye tracking software is showing that your resume is looked at for 7 seconds. Now, that doesn't mean that it is only read for a total of 7 seconds, but what it means is at that 7 second point, the recruiter is deciding whether to continue reading or to move on, and look at the next resume that comes along. So this is really, really important, and a lot of my coaching around resumes is based on this 7 second rule. For me, what 7 seconds means, firstly, is that page number 1 is absolutely key. Page number 1, in 7 seconds, you're not going to page 2, or certainly not page 3 and 4. So page number 1 is where you probably need to focus 99% of your attention, because if you don't have the key information in a way that's easy to read on page 1, then it doesn't matter what's on page 2. It doesn't even matter if you have a second page. It's not going to get read. So you need to keep that in mind. So what this article says in the second dot point is that resumes succeeded in capturing recruiters' attention when they had simple layouts. So that's the first thing we need to realize is simple layouts. Let's just we don't want to squash everything onto one page. I see a lot of people who want a one-page resume. There's nothing wrong with a one-page resume, but we don't want a one-page resume that's got 700 words squashed in and is really difficult to read. It's better to have 2. We also need to have simple layouts with clear section and heading titles. So we need titles. We want it to be easy to read. Resume is organized by the capital E or the capital F pattern succeeded. So what that means is I want you to think about a blank piece of paper with a massive capital E or a capital F. So what that means is down the left-hand side is where things are coming off. So lots of things coming off the left-hand side. As it says here, again, bulleted points are really important, as are bold titles and listing bulleted accomplishments. So titles and accomplishments and spacing it out well makes it really easy to read for the interviewer. And that's important because we actually don't read every word. We skim read resumes, and eye tracking shows that. So you want to make your key information really, really easy for you to find. And then the bottom dot point here, resumes did not fare well when they were hindered by cluttered layouts. So we don't want it to be too cluttered. A lack of white space on the page. So again, we want space. It's easier, it's good on our eye. It's nice on our eye to have white space. Think about Google's, main landing page, lots of white space there. We don't want multiple columns, and we don't want long sentences. A lack of section or job headers also turned off recruiters, as did text that didn't flow or draw the eye down the page. So there's some really important things to consider. Okay, effective resume writing. So I want to begin a little bit here by talking about, what actually is your resume. Well, let's talk about a definition. So your resume is a factual account of your employment and study history, but it also needs to highlight your skills and abilities. And most importantly for me, and if you've been in any of my resume sessions before, you'll know that I believe that your resume needs to sell you. Selling you is the most important thing that your resume should be doing, because your resume is a marketing document. It's an advertisement for you. So my question to you is, does your resume sell you? Are you sitting there now thinking, yeah, my resume is really good. I'm proud of my resume. It looks good. I'm confident that it really promotes the best parts of me. Or alternatively, are you sort of thinking, you know what, my resume is pretty dry. It's pretty boring. I don't really know how to make it look good. I don't really know how to make it, appealing. I don't like it at all. Because particularly in 2025 and through some of the things I'll show you today, your resume should be a good looking document. It's an advertisement for you. It needs to highlight the best parts of you. Your resume is you on paper. As I said, it's an advertisement. Now think about when you see an advertisement for something. I remember when I sold our house 5 years ago, and our property went on realestate.com.au, and the photos were taken from the best possible angles that made the house look amazing. The description was written in the very best possible way. And so often I say to job seekers, think about how a house is described when it's for sale. Or think about a billboard that you drive past when it's advertising something. It is telling you about the best possible features. And that's what your resume should be doing. It's an advertisement for you. It should be pointing at your best possible features. It should be promoting you. Okay? So an advertisement, a promotion, basically saying to the person, interview me, employ me, buy me. That's what our resume should be doing. It needs to sell you. So I want you to stop thinking of your resume as a dry, boring academic document. Yes, it is academic and it has some formal information on it, but I want you to start making it come alive and highlighting how good you are. And one of the best ways to do that, and it's one of the key points I'll mention a few times today, is that your resume needs to be customized for every role. And that's a really good way of making it come alive. And it's a really good way of helping to highlight who you are. So think of it as a fluid document. Creating your resume once is great, but you don't use that same resume without changes to go and apply for 20 jobs over the next month. You need to tweak it, and I'll show you how to do that in an easy way throughout today. All right, so the first step with a great resume is basic resume structure. There's no point in thinking about all these ways where we can make our resume sexy and appealing and sell us and promote us if we don't have the right basic structure. And what the basic structure allows us to do is present a resume in a way that is really easily read. So some of those things we talked about before, section headings, bulleted accomplishments, the layout and the design is the resume structure, and we need to get this right. So I'm going to share with you a couple of screenshots here. And these are templates, and these templates you can go and download from our candidate coaching platform. And you obviously then put in all of your details, but we've got it laid out in this way. So what we'll see here, let's touch on a couple of points. So first of all, you'll notice, let's point out the fact that we've got some headings here. So apart from the name, we've got Joe Citizen. We can see professional summary, formal education, and employment history in bold headings there. So we're making the key information easy to find. For those of you who are unsure, in Australia, we put education pretty much all the time on the front page, particularly if you are going for a role as somebody who's completed university lately, or you've got a really relevant qualification. You definitely want to have that on the first page, and we normally put it before education. So this is the normal order for a resume in Australia. It is important for me to point out, though, that you'll get lots of different advice and opinion on resumes. And that advice should be considered alongside of mine. My advice is just my opinion from 20 years in recruitment. But that's one of the challenges with resumes is everybody has an opinion. And there are other recruiters out there who are more qualified than me, which might say things that are different to me. It doesn't mean that I'm more right than them or they're more right than me. And it might change from job to job. But my advice today is something that, I'm certainly comfortable presenting to you based on my experience. So we've got the clear headings there. Up the top, it's important to have contact details. I do recommend putting a LinkedIn profile link there because recruiters are human. And if I say a LinkedIn profile link, I'll often click on that because it will give me some more information about you as a candidate. It will give me a little bit more color. It will give me a little bit more context. So I like that. And we've also got contact information, Certainly want mobile phone and email, and normally have our address as well. If you're currently living in another country and applying for a job in Australia, or you're living in another state and you're applying for a job interstate, you need to address pretty much in your professional summary at the top here why you are applying for this role. So it's really important to let the recruiter know that you are applying for this role with, you're really meaning to apply for it. Because what we know from a recruiter's point of view is that it's really easy to apply for lots of jobs. So the job boards now, you've got one-click apply. And we can see that candidates will apply for 30 jobs in 30 minutes, and they'll just wait to see who calls them back. So if I often see a resume and it's from somebody that's applied for a job from overseas, I'm probably thinking, have they really realized this job requires, maybe it's Australian citizenship. But if in your summary, and where it says professional summary there, that could say introduction, you would probably say that you've got residency status to work in Australia. Or if you're applying for a job in Melbourne and you live in Adelaide, you would write, I have intentions to move to Melbourne, or I already have a property in Melbourne. So you want to make it really, really clear there. So that professional summary, I've got 3 lines there. I probably wouldn't make it any longer than that. It's kind of, in some ways, almost a mini version of your cover letter, but it's a statement. And this professional summary, personal statement, should probably change for each job that you're applying to. So here we've got an intrinsically motivated individual with a professional background in call center operations and customer service management, displaying excellent leadership and organizational skills, resulting in the optimum functioning of the organization and the consistent achievement of customer service standards. So this resume here, this template, this person, Joe Citizen, is a call center manager. Now that professional summary, again, depending on the different types of roles that Joe might be applying for, I would tweak it for each resume. We've then got formal education. We have that up the top here. So Joe's got Bachelor of Business, the university and the year, and then a certificate in executive leadership and government and the year. Particularly if your study is recent and you're going for a graduate role, here you could list some of your achievements in your study. So if you got a distinction in your final year for whatever, I'd put that there as well, particularly for grad roles, because that's going to be really relevant, at this particular point in time. There's no doubt about that. Next we then list employment history. Employment history is something that's obviously the key part of many people's resumes. And with our employment history, what we need to do is list the company, the year and the month. It's really important to list the month, particularly if the job's fairly recent, because if, for example, you started in 2024, I don't know if that was just December and you've been there for 3 months, or was it January and you've been there for over a year? So we need to list the year and the month. We then have the title. I've got here, give a brief 2 to 3 line introduction explaining to the reader what the organization does. Now, this depends on who you worked for previously. So if your last job, for example, was with Woolworths or Coles or, Netflix or Google, I know who that company is. I know what that company does. So you probably don't need to give an introduction to the organization. But if it was a smaller, more of a niche company, or you thought the reader may not know, then I would give an introduction. And then we have our primary duties and responsibilities. So this is where we start to really tweak our resume, because I want you to consider the word I'm using here, which is primary. And we've got a spot here for 6 dot points. Your last job might have had 100 duties. You can only list on your resume 6. So we need to list the 6 things that are really, really relevant to that particular job advertisement. And how we're going to know that is by reading the job advertisement and matching what they've asked for. So if they've asked for, you should have in your background or the experience you need to bring, you need to match your resume to the advertisement. And then you're going to list your achievements. So we want ideally at least 2 achievements, but 3 or 4 is okay. And the achievements I'll come to in a moment, but that's really key. So this is that basic resume layout. And again, you can download that template on our platform. Here's another template that we have that's available that's slightly different. So you'll see here again, though, we've used lots of headings, so the information is easy to find. The key difference here is down the left-hand side, We've put our contact details, and we've put a skills and attributes column. I'm 50-50 sort of on skills and attributes columns. They're more common for IT roles where you might need to list like a lot of programming skills, for example, and you do want to list those on your main page. So you get them onto the front page here. But again, this is a fairly easy to read layout. We've got the headings, we've got different sections. It's very easy for the person to find the key information about you in 7 seconds. So we're building it to make sure we're working towards that 7-second rule. So again, download these templates from our candidate coaching platform, and you can put your own details in, and then at least you know and can be confident that the layout and the design of your resume is really, really good. So once we've got that right, I want to share with you an example of how you can sell yourself. So I've talked about this a little bit. It's my main point for resumes. It needs to sell you. How do we actually do so? I'm going to provide to you an example. So how do you actually sell your experience? This was a candidate that I interviewed a couple of years ago who had applied for a sales job. And this is how she described her recent employment at the time. She wrote she was a sales representative, and I've changed the name of the company there. We're going to call them ABC. And she was there for 3 years. She was a salesperson for 3 years. And the second dot point, she sold goods and traveled to meet customers and keep them happy. Now, when recruiting for salespeople, sales is a very challenging job. You need high resilience. So to me, if you've worked for 3 years in a sales representative type role, you've demonstrated some good resilience. And therefore, I called this candidate. After speaking to her on the phone and interviewing her, though, it was clear that she had undersold herself on her resume. I worked with her, and this is what we turned her resume into. This is the same job, sales representative for ABC company. What you'll see here is, firstly, we divided into 2 sections. In the bold there, we've got primary responsibilities, and the second bold heading is achievements. Here we've listed, I think, 9 primary responsibilities. That's probably quite a lot. Part of the reason why she listed 9 was she didn't have a lot of experience in other roles to fill out her resume. So normally I'd recommend probably 6 to 8. What we can see here, though, is we get a lot more detail on the role. So first of all, first dot point, maintain regular contact with a large portfolio of business clients. We then go into a bit more detail. Number 2, discuss current infrastructure, networking, internet, and phone requirements with clients. If we skip down a couple of dot points, we've got here attend at least 3 new business appointments per day. I would really encourage you to use numbers on your resume to quantify things. Let me give you the example. If we just had attend new business appointments every day, I don't know how many that is. I don't know whether you're doing 1 a day, 1 a week, 10 a week. When you put 3 a day there, I say, okay, that's 15 a week. That's a lot of business appointments. I'm getting a really good understanding. So from the listing of the primary responsibilities here, this candidate's given me a great example or great insight into what they're doing. But it's the achievements in particular that really stand out for me. And this is the case for many interviewers and recruiters, because a lot of the time I've got a pretty good understanding of what you've done in your job. For example, if you've worked at McDonald's, I would get 100 resumes a week from people working in fast food. Everyone's pretty much doing the same job. What I'm looking for in those achievements, though, is how well you've done the job. That's the key part. How well did you do the job? And also, how proud of you are the work that you've done. That's what your achievements can show. So here, this person wrote that she was a salesperson of the year in 2014, exceeding her sales budget by 21%. This is a great achievement, salesperson of the year. But on the first version of her resume, that was not listed. That was not listed at all. Giving me some stats as well around how she exceeded her sales by 21% is absolutely fantastic. Again, I particularly like the third dot point here, which was help increase product sales in Melbourne from 400,000 to 800,000 in 2 years. It's quantifying it. So this is a really good way of selling your experience. Now, you might be sitting there and thinking, James, but I haven't been salesperson of the year. I have been working at McDonald's, like you say, for the last 3 years, but I haven't been given any awards. What I want you to consider is, a couple of things where you can look to find achievements. For example, if you've been in your role at McDonald's for 3 years, what are you doing now that's different from your first month? Have you been given extra duties and responsibilities? For example, have you been asked to train new staff? You could list that as an achievement. Have you been asked to supervise at times? That's an achievement. It's a promotion. Have you been asked to perhaps cash up the till, lock up the store at the end of the day, work on different projects? It doesn't have to be an award, a certificate that's listed as an achievement here. Or it could be something that's part of what the store's achieved. Maybe the store was rewarded as best customer service store in Victoria for 2024. Part of what you want to do here with your achievements is show some pride in your work and show that you understand what doing a good job looks like. So that's how we sell ourselves. The third step is to make your resume visually appealing. There is nothing wrong with making your resume visually appealing. So a couple of ways of doing that. I've got some templates there that I've talked to you about. Some other ways to do that is to go to Canva. So we're going to jump on here now. If you haven't used, oops, we're not sharing. Where is, share. Got to change my sharing. No, it's not going to work. Head to canva.com. Most of you have used Canva before. There's a lot of free resume templates on there. Actually, I think there's over 10,000 at last check. Pick one that you're really comfortable with and use that. Just be aware that if you do use a Canva document, that if you are asked to upload a Word resume, Canva is not Word, it's normally PDF. So you just need to keep that in mind. But there is nothing wrong with, as we said, your resume's got to sell you. It's got to market you. It's an advertisement for you. There is nothing wrong with having some color. I'll talk about photos later on, but have it in a design that you're proud of. Don't use a rainbow of colors. Make it classy. Make it a visually appealing document. And the fourth one is to change your resume for every application. So I've mentioned this a couple of times, but it is really important that you are tailoring your resume. You might be sitting there thinking, but I'm only applying for call center jobs. Surely they're all the same. Well, they're not all the same because every call center has a different culture, a different product, a different process, and in the advertisement, they will be looking for something different. So you need to tailor what your resume says. So when I say change your resume for every application, I don't mean rewrite your resume. You might change 3 dot points. And you might change the first 2 dot points in terms of your description of your previous role because you need to match what's on that resume. All right. I want to move now into sharing with you how I think you should use AI to improve your resume. So let me change my screen sharing to entire screen. Let's go with that one. Let's hope this works with the new layout of the platform that I'm using. Here we go. Can we see that? Oh, now I've lost myself with you. All right. Yes, we can. All right. Let's go to Gemini. So this doesn't matter whether you are using ChatGPT or whatnot. What I want to show you here is how you can use AI to improve your resume. So not rewrite, not replace, simply just improve. So let's jump on Seek, for example. We're going to look for a retail manager job in Australia. Okay, so here's one. We're just going to go straight away. The first one that comes up, retail store manager role for a company here called Petstock. Now, let's pretend we want to apply for this job. I've got a fake resume or a resume that I've made up for a retail store manager role. So let's pretend that I'm looking for a new job as a store manager. I love pets. Yeah, I love animals. Absolutely. Wouldn't this be great? Actually, it probably would be great. So I've got the advertisement here and I've got the resume. So I'm going to jump back in and I'm going to say, hello, Gemini. I always like to chat to my large language model. How can I help you today? I say, I have found a job advertisement that I would like to apply for. Can if I upload the advertisement and a copy of my resume, can you please tell me where my resume closely matches the typos, where it closely matches the requirements and where it is weak. All right. And so we'll run that, and Gemini will basically tell me, yes, you need to upload the two. So please provide the complete text of the job advertisement. So this is an important point with these large language models. We need to copy and paste. So we'll go back to the advertisement and we will copy and paste it. Here we go, copy and paste from the top, down we go. So I've got that. I'm going to say, here is the job advertisement. And here is my resume. So I have got, can I upload? Sometimes it lets me upload a file. Is it going to let me? Maybe it will. Example resume. No, it doesn't want to. Okay, so I'm going to open this up for you. I've got an example resume here that I mentioned to you before, which is this one, which I've made. This person's last job was an assistant store manager in a mobile phone shop. So I'm going to copy that and paste it in, and off we go. So there's all the information in the system there. So here we go. So this is, and we move pretty quickly. So, okay, Job Seeker, that's the name of the person. I've reviewed your resume and the pet stock retail store manager advertisement. Here's a breakdown of your key strengths and weaknesses. So what it's done is it's the key skills and requirement from the job description and then the strength in your resume. So, and it's very specific. So I've listed, it says leadership experience, your assistant store manager on mobile phone work, clearly demonstrate that. So we've got our strengths listed here. That's really good. Probably what I'm more interested in though is, okay, where are the weaknesses or gaps? And look, we've got it here. So lack of context of quantifiable results. Now this is interesting, isn't it? While it says in my resume, while I mentioned sales targets, you don't quantify them. So this is something that we talked about before, isn't it? We need to put numbers there. Safety culture, so that's clearly mentioned in the ad, and I don't mention anything about that in my resume. This is a key requirement of the job description. So let's go back and check that out. Safety culture. Where is it? I'm just going to search for the word safety. Yeah, so we can see here that it's mentioned to create a strong mindset of safety with our safety culture. And that's the fourth dot point there. Safety culture is mentioned again. So 3 times in the advertisement. I don't have that in this resume. So that's a really good point. So what I would need to do to better match my resume to the advertisement is to include something about my work in safety in my previous roles. Business acumen. This is interesting. The resume is missing any evidence of business acumen. Pet industry experience. And this is where the large language modules are getting good. It says here, this is the biggest gap. This is the biggest gap. So it's not just identified, I don't talk about pets or animals. It's actually telling me this is the biggest gap. So this is where AI is becoming more and more useful, because it's not just identification of a problem. It's identification of a problem with some commentary. That's the biggest gap. The advertisement advertises being inspired by pets and expects you to keep up to date on pet care products. So there's no example of that in my resume. A really good way to address this could be that introduction. You know, I could talk about the fact that I've got, 2 Labradors or whatnot. We're not going to go through this all line by line. So if our weaknesses have been identified, we might not agree with all of these, or we don't need to take on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 6 points. We might just want a couple of suggestions here, but I can see already that Gemini has identified some weaknesses that I would address if I was applying for this role. And here's some suggestions. So it says address the pet industry gap, which is critical, quantify achievements, address safety culture. So it's building on from that. We're not going to go through all of that. And then we've got a summary here. In summary, the biggest hurdle is a lack of pet industry experience. Address this aggressively through volunteering your cover letter and highlighting any relevant experiences. Then focus on quantifying your achievements and addressing other gaps. So this is a really, really powerful summary that we can use. So I'm not saying we then go and use AI to rewrite our resume. We go and rewrite it ourselves. And we could re-upload it here in a day's time and say, hey, because this chat can continue. Hey, Gemini, I've addressed those concerns. Do you feel this resume is now a better match? And it will provide you with some commentary again. So that's just one way that I would recommend. Likewise, with your cover letter, you can do it. And then likewise for researching a role. So that's how I'm guiding all of my candidates on how to use AI. This is really powerful. It's only going to get better. Still, don't use it to write your resume. Use it to do your research. So we've got 5 do's and 5 don'ts with AI and your resume. The don'ts, first of all, is don't use it, as I said, to write your whole resume. You need to still write it yourself, and don't expect it to be better than you. A lot of us place trust in technology. We have blind faith, blind trust. Don't expect AI to be better than you. Don't expect it to be honest. Now, this is a really big one. Some AI algorithms will give you examples you can use or suggestions that you can't use because they're not true. It also, I think my next dot point, it makes mistakes. Literally a couple of weeks ago, I copied some text and I felt like I was using one particular word too many times. And I said, how many times are you using this word? And it said 5 times. And I thought I think it's being used more than 5 times. And I literally asked the large language model, are you sure it's 5? It seems like more. And it replied, oops, sorry, you're right. You've used it 6 times. So it will still make mistakes. It will make grammatical errors. It can make things up. So you need to proofread it. And don't just use it to be lazy. So use it to improve, use it to tweak, use it to customize. That's the best way. The 5 things, do use it for that guidance. Do use it, for follow-up questions and follow-up information. Do use it for job and company research. We're not talking today about interviewing, but these language models are really good for you to be able to find information that you can then use in your interview. Assisting with your cover letter and assisting with your resume, and using it as a point of difference. So it's another tool. It's kind of like Microsoft Word to write your resume. Use it as a tool there. But at the end of the day, the resume has still got to be yours. It's got to sound like you. It's got to be written by you. But you can use AI as a wonderful tool to help research and improve. So some common resume questions I always get asked: how long should my resume be? This is a personal choice. And again, lots of recruiters will have lots of different opinions here. I would say between 1 and 4 pages. There is nothing wrong with a 1-page resume. There's nothing wrong with a 4-page resume. The most important part, and hopefully I've got this across to you today, is page 1. So if you want to have a 4-page resume, go for it. But make sure you're focusing all of your attention to begin with on page 1, and that's really, really good. Personally, if I had to choose a number, I like a 2-page resume. That's my own preference, but that's by no means the rule. Should I include a photo of myself? This is a big one, isn't it? So I want to ask you that question again. If we want our resume to sell ourselves and promote ourselves and be an advertisement for ourselves, do you think that putting a photo of yourself on your resume helps to sell you? Only you can answer that question. A couple of things to note with photos. They should be a corporate headshot. I think that goes without saying now. And you do need to be prepared that if you do put a photo of yourself on your resume, the person looking at your resume will make a judgment on you based on the way you look. Every single individual has unconscious bias. And so even the most even and fair recruiter, when they see a photo of you, in their mind, they start to make some assumptions on you based on the way you look. So you need to be prepared that that's going to happen if you put a photo on your resume. The choice is up to you. If you think it helps sell you and promote you, go for it. If you don't do it. I wouldn't lose sleep over it. Should I include references or academic transcripts on my resume? I do like it when I get to the end of a resume and a candidate's maybe listed the contact details for their references, particularly if their references are people that obviously have good, have a good position. They were previous managers. To me, it shows confidence from the candidate that they're going to receive a positive reference from the referee. So yeah, it's like a show of strength. It's a show of confidence. This is going to occur, and it's going to be something that I know I can plan on. Academic transcripts. My answer is depends. It depends. It depends on the type of role you're going for. Most of the time, the answer is no. If you're going for a graduate position, then probably they will ask you and say, please include academic transcripts if that's something that they're wanting. But other than that, I'd say most of the time, no. You can certainly improve, so you certainly include, maybe, as I mentioned there, a bit of your top results, particularly in your final year. But most of the time, no. And do I include every single job that I've ever worked in? And the answer here is quite simply, depends on how long your career is. I would say that probably your last 2 or 3 jobs is where you need to focus. But, I'm 43. And while I've worked mostly for 20 years in the one company, there's not a lot of relevance from what I did in 2010, 2005. So focus on the last 2 or 3 jobs. You don't need to include them, or you might just include a summary saying these were the jobs I had and just list their name and their year. So let's go through the summary from today. We need to sell our skills, our achievements, and our experience. We need to make our resume easy to read. And maybe in some of the other points I'll try to get across today, hopefully that one's come through loud and clear. Your resume should be easy to read, very simple. It should be visually appealing, and it's okay to be bold. And it should be tailored for every single job. So some things you can start doing today for your year ahead, separate to your resume, is making sure that you've got your LinkedIn profile up to date, you're making connections, and you're making posts. You should be following potential employers. So if there's companies out there, and we do this in some of our coaching on the platform, we say, who is your dream company? And when it comes to looking for work, you've got 2 options. You can apply for jobs that are advertised, or you can also approach and start following the dream organization. So let's start doing that. Start practicing for your job interview. Jump on our candidate coaching platform. We've got lots of videos there on how you can prepare for interview, and start writing your resume. So as I've said, you need to tailor your resume for every job, but there's no reason why you can't have a template that you can work off. Sorry, that wasn't relevant today. But if you've got any questions, pop them in now. I'll hang around for a couple of minutes. Do connect with me. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect directly with you. Do follow our candidate coach page on LinkedIn. Just type in the candidate coach in all one word. And you will then be able to keep up to date with everything that's happening at the candidate coach. So I'm going to stop the recording now for any questions that come through. Sorry, no, I won't stop it, but I'm just checking all of our different streams now for any questions. But apart from that, thank you everybody that's jumped on today. We run these workshops every week, so I'll be back on here next week. Haven't chosen the topic yet. We'll upload that in 30 minutes, so check back to where you're watching it to see what we'll be doing a webinar for next week. All the best with your job hunting. Thanks for joining us today, and take care.